Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Ambassador Wing and Afternoons with the Ambassador. I know this has been a segment I have not done in a while. Well, it has been a long time since I've done more than one or two afternoon streams in a row, but glad to be back with you all this afternoon. Hope you all are having a great weekend. And of course, happy Memorial Day to everybody as we remember those who have laid down their lives to protect this great country that we all live in. And today, I'm going to be bringing you all my thoughts on the brand new Disney Plus series, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But before we get to all that, just a smidge of housekeeping to take care of. And this is just the normal. As always, if this is your first visit to the Ambassador Wing, welcome. I hope you enjoy your time here. I hope you enjoy the stream. And of course, if this is your first time and you do enjoy the stream, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, set it to all notifications, and of course, hit that like button and hit the share because that does help the channel grow. It brings more people in. And here in the Ambassador Wing, there's always room for more ambassadors. So, but of course, I don't stand on a whole lot of ceremony either. I don't do a bunch of lead in, a bunch of wasting of time and everything. But let's jump right in and let's talk Obi-Wan Kenobi, episodes 1 and 2. Personally, just to give my initial thoughts, when they announced that this series was going to go into production, I was interested. I was honestly excited, of course, as a Star Wars fan, a lifelong Star Wars fan. But I was like, okay, let's see what they can do. And when they announced that Ewan McGregor would be reprising his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi from the prequel trilogy, I was like, this is a step in the right direction. And then they announced Deborah Chow was going to be directing the series and everything overall. I was like, well, she did two pretty damn impressive episodes of Mandalorian, both for season 1 and season 2. I was like, I'm good with this as well. And the series, they dropped the first 2 episodes this past Friday. I got home from work. I had dinner. I sat back and just kind of around for a little bit, and I was like, let's check out Kenobi, because I didn't really want to wait and everything. And I was like, let's see what they can do. They impressed me with Mandalorian. They impressed me for the most part with Book of Boba Fett. They impressed me with season 7 of Clone Wars. They kind of dropped the ball with Bad Batch, but to each their own. So, and to a longtime friend and a brand new friend that I have made here, Mountains of Elysium and Jacob Ironside, fellas, it is good to see you both. And Mountains, I know you're overseas. Dude, get Disney Plus. If for no other reason, for Kenobi, because just a heads up now to you all, my reviews, I do go into spoilers. I know it's been a few days since the first 2 episodes dropped, so I imagine most everybody who's tuning in or knows what happened. And if you don't and you're still here, well then, I'm glad you're here anyhow. But this series obviously takes place, as it says in one of the title cards, 10 years after the events of the prequel trilogy, in particular, Revenge of the Sith. The face of the galaxy has changed. And of course, we are returning to a world that, well, we've seen quite a bit in a couple of series so far, and that is, of course, Tatooine. But in this particular instance, it is only logical for this series to take place on Tatooine because it's where Kenobi is living at this point. It's where Luke is at this point. And this is the period where Obi-Wan is watching over Luke and his aunt and uncle, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. And I will be getting into my thoughts on the return of Uncle Owen and so on. But we also get another reintroduction of a favorite character from the prequel trilogy, and who also made an appearance in Rogue One. That is, of course, Bail Organa, played by, I think, very well by Jimmy Smits. And we have the, the reintroduction of a character at a much younger age. And that is, of course, a young Leia Organa. And I will also be I will be giving my thoughts on this young lady's performance. And just to put out there, the force is strong with this young lady. She embodies, I think, very, very well a very rambunctious, a very precocious, a very strong-willed, but a very lovable, and a very spirited Leia Organa. And but we, of course, with the series, with the first two episodes, what we have is, where is Obi-Wan now? He's living the life of an ordinary man. He's no longer a Jedi Knight. He's no longer a Jedi Master. He is just Ben. That's it. So, and also to the chat, face I have not seen in a while, but always happy to see. CJH, it is good to see you. And hope you enjoy the stream, my friend. And for those of you that are here this afternoon, if you do want to join me for the review, for the discussion, share your thoughts. I have included the link in the chat, so it is there if y'all want to use it. But as I said, the face of the galaxy, the Star Wars galaxy, has changed. The Empire is now in charge. And the Jedi are, as Obi-Wan so eloquently, all but extinct. And Obi-Wan now, his sole responsibility is watching over Luke. Nothing else. And we get an introduction, I think a very strong introduction, to a group that we were introduced to in Rebels. And that was, of course, the Inquisitors. And of course, we have the Grand Inquisitor, we have one of the brothers, and we have Reva, the third sister. I think that was her title. So, and also to the chat, Price is Right Reviews. It is good to see you, buddy. Let's see. What have you got to say, CJ? And I'll get back into my discussion. Tales of the Jedi and Bad Batch has me wanting more and wanting to come back and enjoy Star Wars and Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, CJ, I might actually be going live later this evening. Anything, I might do a late night stream. Anything discussing a lot of the announcements that came out of Star Wars Celebrations. So, but I'll keep those in the back of my mind and see what else you have to say here. The one thing I'm not a fan of is Ewan's new Kenobi voice. It feels like he's forgotten how to do the accent. Well, here's the thing, CJ. Even for any type of actor, after they haven't done a part in a while, they can sometimes forget to the little nuances of how they portray the character. But for me, I didn't honestly notice that he wasn't doing the accent. To me, it sounded like the accent was still there. So it's a minor criticism, and hey, that's fine. So let's see, what else have we got to say. Also, I don't know if it's just the time has not been kind to Jimmy Smith, but he seems like a different actor completely. That's Bail Organa. Well, the thing you have to understand, CJ, is we didn't get a whole lot of time with Bail Organa in the prequel trilogy. He had maybe one or two scenes at most throughout the series, and then he had more or less a cameo appearance in Rogue One. So, to the best of my knowledge, he didn't make any appearances in Rebels, and I don't think he made any lengthy appearances in the Clone Wars animated series. So, but honestly, this is Bail Organa at a different point in his life. Obviously, he is now a member of the Imperial Senate, not the Republic Senate, and he's taken on. We're seeing him in a different light here. And that's more of his role as a parent, and also him as the head as the viceroy of Alderaan, and essentially he is the head of Alderaan. He's the leader, the I don't want to say ruler, but for lack of a better term, ruler of Alderaan. So, let's see. Price is Right. What do you got to say, bud? Um, for me, the one thing I enjoyed most was Young Leia. Yeah, and I will get into that here in a little bit, Price. So let's see. Um, it's more of a nitpick. It's not just like the movies. I can still enjoy it. It just takes me out of the show. Fair enough. So, but honestly, what I wanted from the what I wanted from this show was, where is Obi-Wan at this point in his life? Because we don't know a lot about Obi-Wan at this stage in his life. Now, they did do a couple of now what they call legends novels, or at least a legends novel about Obi-Wan in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And they probably mined that novel for some ideas for this series. And I will say this: Ewan McGregor, his portrayal of Kenobi at this point in his life, I think, is very accurate. Now, granted, we've only gotten 2 episodes, so we don't know what direction the series is going to take. But this is a very defeated Kenobi. Um, yeah, and CJ, I'll get into that in a little bit here too. So, but I will address that when I get to my discussion of episode 2 and everything, obviously. So, but the the thing about Kenobi is, as I mentioned, he's no longer a Jedi Master. He's no longer a Jedi Knight. He has gone into hiding. He doesn't use the Force. He's just living his life as an ordinary citizen in the Empire now. He has a regular Joe job, as we would call it, just to make ends meet, to survive and everything. And he occasionally checks in on Luke. Now we get a very interesting interaction. We did see part of this interaction in the preview, or the trailer for Kenobi. Um, and what we have is a very interesting conversation between Owen and Kenobi, and of course, it has an absolutely stinger of a line, and that's when Obi-Wan says, "The boy will eventually have to be trained," and Owen's like you trained his father. And now here's the interesting thing: Owen doesn't know that Anakin is technically still alive. Even Obi-Wan at this point doesn't know that he is still alive. So, um, it's interesting to me, or anything, the dynamic between these two, because Owen's being somewhat adversarial, and I can kind of understand why. And when I was watching the series and I was breaking it down in my mind the last couple of days, everything before I did, well, yeah, Friday and yesterday, I was trying to break down, how would Owen feel about Obi-Wan. So, and Jacob, I will get to your comment, and probably the same with you as well. So, um, how does Owen feel about Obi-Wan? I think he bears some resentment towards him, because here's the thing: we don't know. We only have one interaction between Owen and Anakin in the prequels, and that's of course an Attack of the Clones, when Anakin and Padme come to Tatooine in search of his mother, and you almost get the impression that Owen has a grudge, and I wouldn't necessarily an undue grudge against Kenobi, because to him, Obi-Wan is the reason why his half brother is dead. Because I would imagine Shmi told Owen stories about Anakin to Owen and to his girlfriend Beru, and probably to Owen's father, her husband, and everything, Klieg. Um, so Owen's reaction to Obi-Wan saying the boy will need to be trained, and Owen pushing back on that and saying, "Oh, like you trained his father so damn well, and he ended up dead." I can't say I disagree with how Owen reacts to Kenobi's attitude towards he feels he has this obligation or this duty to train Luke once, because Owen says the only thing you care about is if he's showing or not. When all Obi-Wan does is bring him the model of the Skyhopper, which we eventually do see that Luke does have, obviously in Episode 4. So, but I don't want to ignore you guys here in the chat and everything. So let me get to some of your comments here, because I'm trying to balance this. Let's get my thoughts out here. Let you all have your says as well. Let's see. Price for me, the series is Disney trying to mingle Kenobi and Rebels, so it makes me wonder: will we see Maul again, or a live action Obi-Wan versus Maul fight, just like from Rebels? I doubt it, Price. We might get a flashback. Of course, we did get a nice little montage of the major events from the prequel trilogy, but I don't. That would be muddying the waters too much, because at this point, I think in the chronology, Maul is probably still being contained by Palpatine, or he's on that the one planet that we see in Rebels where that Sith temple is at. So let's see, Jacob, what we got here. The continuity is the big thing for me. As soon as organic contacts Kenobi, it breaks the continuity. This is something I've heard a lot of people talking about. Does this show break the continuity? Does it ruin the continuity of the original trilogy? This is now continuity, canon, and lore are how you and this is a position I have always held, in particular with Star Wars. So don't take my comment as being adversarial, Jacob, because it's not meant as such. For me, I view series like Obi-Wan, like The Mandalorian, like Book of Boba Fett, like Ahsoka, and everything else that they've got coming out over the next year or so and into the future, as new expanded universe. Now, if you want to count this as canon, as part of the canonical movies from the prequels, the original trilogy, and if you regard it as such, the sequel trilogy, that is your prerogative. It's, as I say, is on a person-by-person basis. So for me, this series I don't treat it as canon. Not cinematic canon. Let me put it that way. I treat it as new expanded universe canon, because regardless of what decisions Lucasfilm has made in terms of canonizing or decanonizing the old expanded universe, guess what? All that material is still out there. And Price, I do see, I'll bring you in just a minute, buddy. I just want to get this out and everything before I continue on. So for me, Kenobi does not break the continuity of the original trilogy. Now, if you want to, as I said, if you want to consider it canon to the rest of the cinematic universe, that is absolutely your prerogative to do so. For me, it's not. For me, it's a non-issue. I'm looking at this series based on its merits. Is it good? Is it entertaining? Does it expand the character in a meaningful way? Does it expand the universe, particularly the new expanded new universe, in a meaningful way? So, but with that being said, I'm going to bring in a good friend of the channel, a fellow ambassador, a person I have a lot of respect for. He is a fellow geek. So with no further introduction, everybody welcome Price is Right Reviews.
Yo, what's happening, everybody?
Hey, Bryce, good to see you, bud.
Not much. And I figured I'd give my 2 cents because a lot of stuff you said I do agree with. It's just that that's why I asked the question about Maul. Will we see Maul again? Because even though it's not quote unquote, a lot of it's not really doesn't really breach canon as far as I saw. But it's like no, I don't really think breach canon. But that's why I asked the question because I'm just going by the course of the timeline because Rebels is going on at the same time as this TV show. So I'm wondering if you might see any kind of references to the Ezra crew or Darth Maul coming back again or something like that.
Well, actually, I'm not trying to clamp down on you or anything, Price.
No,
Actually, this series would take place before Rebels because we encounter an older Obi-Wan by the time they get to
true.
that point in Rebels. So Rebels would take place after this, not concurrently
Yeah,
with it. Now there might be a little overlap, maybe, but in terms
yeah,
of the Rebels crew, they're not all together yet. They haven't discovered Ezra on
yeah,
Lothal or anything like that. So
yeah. That's not
this,
even wrong. It,
Mhm.
it just makes me ponder. It just makes me ponder the overlap of how that's going to work.
Well, we don't know where this series is necessarily going to stop, where it's going to cut off or anything.
True.
So we're going to have to wait and see. So
Hmm.
because they don't give any type of time frame for this could take place over a matter of days, or it could take place over the matter of several weeks, whatever the
Hmm.
case may be. I don't think it will be like we won't get right up to like the events of maybe Rogue One or something, because
Hmm.
by that point it would be Alec Guinness Obi-Wan that we would see on screen
Yeah, yeah.
and everything. So this is Ewan McGregor and everything.
Kind of growing into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So my guess is go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention one more thing about the whole Bail Organa thing. Like, well, and it's not. This is my thing about Bail Organa contacting Obi-Wan is like, how's it? I was asking myself, how does that breach canon? Because you would think they would be in constant contact with each other even before all this happened. Because Bail
Yeah,
Organa was taking care of Leia and he was watching over Luke, so you would think to be kind of a team effort to make sure the kids are safe. Because that's literally the entire point, to keep them both safe from Darth Vader. You know.
exactly. Well, and here's the thing too. If you remember in Rogue One, when Mon
Mm-hmm.
Mothma is talking to Bail or anything right after that big conference meeting breaks up, and she's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Are you going to contact your friend,
Mm-hmm.
the Jedi?"
Yeah.
And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah." So obviously, Organa knows that he's on Tatooine because he knows
Yeah, and it's like,
that's where he knows where Obi Wan is. So it would
and
make
it's not,
sense for them. Go ahead.
and it's not, yeah, and it's not like they don't stop talking to each other. It's like that's one thing. It's like, oh, this breaches canon if he contacts Obi-Wan. No, it doesn't. It's just them basically just talking to each other. It's like, I'm pretty sure they talked to each other numerous times before this events happened. So it's like, really?
Potentially, potentially.
Yeah,
Again, we don't know. I
yeah.
mean, as I said, I'm looking at this as more expanded universe content rather
Mm-hmm.
than tying connect directly into the original trilogy universe.
True.
Now, as I said, you can regard it as such, and I've had this conversation dozens of times over the last several years, in particular when it comes to the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
You can you can regard it as uh, canonical, or you can regard it as non-canonical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, in real life, the only canon that really matters is the canonization of the Bible, but that's a different topic for a different time here. As far as this series breaking any kind of continuity or breaking any kind of canon,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the conversation that I'm really here to have.
Yeah.
Because for
For,
me, it's moot. It doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Yeah, for me personally, as long as they don't actually breach something that's actually part of the actual film for me, like the whole meaning of Darth Vader and Obi Wan that's supposed to happen again, that's when it
Mhm.
kind of breaks. At least for me, it breaks the canon because, like you said, Darth Vader himself said we never saw each other till they meet each other back on the Death Star again.
Well, and here's the thing too, and I've discussed this with the missus, I've discussed it with some friends and everything.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of that dialogue in the first Star Wars I will say, was ambiguous.
Hmm.
It's it,
Perhaps.
it's never been concretely stated whether or not, unless George Lucas came out and said something that I'm not aware of, which he very well
Yeah.
may have.
Hmm.
There's nothing that says that Vader and Kenobi did not meet each other again in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Perhaps. Yeah.
So, for me, I'm not gonna. I don't have a big issue if they happen to meet again because again, for me, this is all expanded universe. It can tie in, it cannot tie in. For me, that's
Hmm.
how I reconcile that entire
Hmm.
issue.
Yeah,
So
I do like the kind of thing that gave Obi-Wan a little bit of PTSD kind of flashback when you
yeah,
think about
I
stuff.
was.
Because think about it, you train the potential chosen one. He destroys basically the entire Jedi Order, and then in front of you, he kills his own wife, Padme. Like he
Mhm.
chooses and he tells him to stop. Well, you can imagine how much that kind of scarred him for life for that. You know,
Yeah,
remorse.
and the interesting thing about Kenobi is, and I hope we get some more time with him
Hmm.
dealing with the aftermath of the Clone Wars because as a fan of this character, I imagine we're all fans of this character. He is such a crucial character to the
Yep.
entire Star Wars universe in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
I want to know his mindset,
Yeah.
particularly at this time in his life. We got a
Hmm.
peek of it. But the question is, are we going to see any more? Now, we
Hmm.
did see it in terms of maybe dialogue, not so much flashbacks or PTSD memories or anything like that.
Hmm.
But when he's interacting with Leia,
Hmm.
there on that one on the planet Dio, I think it's called,
Yeah. I
and
first thought it
he
was Coruscant they were on, but okay.
say again, Price.
I at first thought they were on Coruscant with Leia in the lower levels, but then I guess I was wrong on that one.
No, it's a different planet entirely. And everything
Gotcha.
they so, um,
But she was
but
home. We'll get to that point, but she was
well,
awesome.
we can go ahead and jump into that now because Obi-Wan makes a he has a really nice comment in there. He's like,
Hmm.
"You remind me of someone," and
Yep.
she's like,
Oh man.
and I will say it. This Leia reminds me both of her mother and her father
Yeah.
because go ahead.
I was just gonna mention she has that sass that man like she has the stubbornness, she has the strength and wisdom of her mother, but she has that sass, that recklessness, that wit. She just she's both her father and her mother wrote so easily.
Yes, she is, and I have to admit this. Now, I will say this: in terms of the design of the worlds, everything that we've seen,
Hmm.
obviously we've seen Tatooine rather extensively,
Hmm.
and maybe somewhat to a degree ad nauseum at this point. But we also got a look at this the other planet Dio, and we also got
Hmm.
a look at a world that we only saw briefly at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and that was of course Alderaan or
Oberon, yep,
Alderaan, depending on
yep.
however way you want to pronounce it.
It's all
Um,
good.
everybody says it a little bit differently, and I will say Alderaan looked really cool.
It was great, yeah. It was pretty
Yeah,
good.
it did. The immersion of the very high tech technological cities and everything,
Yep.
but also a lot of the natural wildlife, the natural world around it. It was a
Oh yeah.
nice balance and everything, and it very much kept to the like I said, the little dab that we saw um
Hmm.
in
Well,
and go ahead.
well, for me personally, because I've seen several different shots of the old run before this, because I played the video games, the old Republic series, so they kind of show more of like what old run looks like from the Force perspective. But now in this series, we're seeing natural cities and actually how they build their civilization is pretty interesting to watch. In fact, if you were to paint the entire city green, it can literally almost be the Emerald City almost when you think about it.
A little bit, yeah, except it's not green, it's white.
You
So
know what I mean? But
yeah, no, I know, I get you, Price, I get you. Um, and the interesting thing is we have not really ever seen Leia. Well, obviously, we've never seen Leia at this point in her life where she's a young child. We did
hmm
see her
I
in
love that.
Rebels, I think in like one or two episodes and everything, maybe. And of course, we've seen her in
Yeah.
video games. We saw her in the first Force Unleashed game.
Yep.
And
That's when
so,
that's when I think she was more like a preteen adult. I think like a young adult almost.
yeah, somewhere along in there, yeah. I'd say she was
But
maybe in her late teens at most. And I have to admit, obviously she's not overtly force sensitive, but she
Hmm.
does have the perception down
Yeah, and she.
where she can pick up on people's thoughts and their emotions.
Mhm.
And that scene between her and her cousin where he pretty much just tells her you're not part of the family and you're not even a real Organa, and she's like, well, that may be so, but you just want so badly to be just like your dad. You want your dad's
Ooh.
approval and everything else across the board. And he, okay, I know that a lot of people, I wish I had this clip. I don't, unfortunately. But can you say emotional damage?
Well,
She
not, well,
wrecked him.
well,
She
not, well, not,
absolutely wrecked him.
yeah, yeah. Not only that, she has a perception, but I think considering she's grown up with the kid, so she probably know a lot about him as well. And just to see her just bring on that sass, man, she's laid him out on that one.
To dress him to dress him down the way she kind of dressed Han
Wow.
down like she did in Empire Strikes Back. Now, now there is one scene and everything in the first episode that I really enjoyed, and it's between Leia and Bale, and
Oh my goodness.
it's after her verbal altercation with her cousin, and it really tugged at my heartstrings. It did,
Oh yeah.
because Leia is as I am.
Hmm.
She is an adopted child
Yep.
because I was adopted at birth. She was adopted at birth, just like Luke was.
Hmm.
And the conversation that Bale has with her, just
I would imagine.
to say it kind of wrecked me is an understatement.
Yeah,
But
I like to think he says to her that soon she'll be able to boss him for real as a real senator. It kind of foreshadows her future, her destiny.
yeah,
The kind of person
exactly.
she'll be. So I like that.
Yeah. But the thing that he says to her is, "You are our child. You are an organic
Hmm.
in every way that matters."
Hmm.
Not coming out of, I mean, obviously she knows that, more than likely she knows that she is adopted, I would
Yes,
imagine.
she probably knows that. Yeah.
Yeah, because she doesn't look like her parents, and that's not a bad
Hmm.
thing. I'm not saying that as a negative,
Nope.
but eh,
Well, I was going to mention I even like what her mother said. She reminds me of something. No, who does she remind you of? Padme, because like I said, because even her mom's like, yeah, I know exactly what she's like. Padme.
well, yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I would imagine, well, obviously Bale and Padme had interaction with one another, and I imagine his wife may have been around for a few of those interactions. We don't know
Yeah,
for sure,
Mary.
but we can infer that more likely they did. And of course, we have, I will say this: the plot. I mean, this might be just one plot in the entire series, because I imagine eventually
Hmm.
Obi-Wan will get Leia back to Alderaan, and she will be safe again.
Yeah.
Now that whole sequence where she's trying to outrun the kidnappers,
Hmm.
I didn't have a major problem with
Hmm.
anything. So, but I will
Okay.
say this: I was watching that episode. I was like, wait a minute, I know that guy.
Yep.
And when the credits came up and it said Flea, I was like, I thought I knew that guy. And Madame Bastard was like, who is he? She's like, I feel like I know him. I was like, you ever heard of the band Red Hot Chili Peppers? She's like, uh, yeah, sort of. I was like, he was the drummer.
Yes, that's funny.
And I'm like,
That's funny.
Flea is now in Star Wars. Of course, he had a very short visit into the Star Wars universe
But hey, you
because
made it in.
but he made it in. And
That's
of
funny.
course, but the interesting thing for me is, how were they going to get Obi-Wan off of Tatooine? And it was not easy for him. And I imagine he was even still
Hmm.
wrestling. You could tell he was still wrestling with being away from Tatooine, because he
Yeah, because
doesn't
it's
want
one
to get
mission.
because let's be honest here, he is a marked man.
Hmm.
He is one of the highest ranking members of the Jedi Council, not to mention one of the few
Yep.
Jedi still alive in
And
the
the
galaxy.
and he's a
So
fugitive. Yeah.
yeah, he is essentially a fugitive from of the Empire. So
Hmm.
once word gets out that he is loose and they put such a high bounty on him,
Oh yeah.
every Tom, Dick, and Forlom is going to be after him, and
Yeah.
we see that. Anything, particularly in the second episode when he gets to
Mhm.
Dio.
With little Leia.
Yeah, we're with, and I will say it. I was kind of they tricked me, and it's not easy to trick me because the one guy um that was the fake Jedi really had me fooled for a few minutes. I'm like, but when Obi-Wan finds him and exposes him, he's like, "You're not even a real Jedi, are you?" He's like, "No, I'm not a real Jedi." Oh, and he's like, and fun fact for those of you that might be interested, the guy that played the fake Jedi was actually in Eternals.
Yep, he was.
He played Kingo. I can't pronounce the actor's name. I will not attempt to try.
Dude,
I
but
think,
but like, but the whole entire time that Obi-Wan's watching the fake Jedi, kind of let me read your mind, and then the customer's like, the Force is really strong with you. Like I just started laughing. Like Obi-Wan's like rolling his eyes, like who's this guy supposed to be? And he just pulls a gun on the guy. Yeah, you're fake, stupid magnet, you stupid idiot. I love that.
yeah,
That,
I
that was
did. I
awesome.
mean, I will say this: the series doesn't have a whole lot of humor
Mm.
thus far, but the humor feels appropriate. It feels organic to the world. It doesn't
Oh,
feel like
oh,
a
yeah.
well. Let's just say it doesn't feel like a bad yo mama joke.
Well, if you want to talk about humor, man, the most humor I got of the entire episode, these two episodes was Leia's little banter. She was like,
Oh yeah,
especially when he was walking with Obi-Wan, like, "You're my daughter, granddaughter, maybe." I was
oh, yes,
that's sass, man.
I did. I busted out laughing. I did. I absolutely did. I'm like this. I don't know
This,
the name of the actress who they cast for young Leia, but she is just pitch perfect. She
like I said,
really is.
this is why I stand by it. Like, of all things that some people might have problems with this series, but like Leia, they nailed her to a T. Her snark, her charisma, her little like banter is like absolutely spot on with Leia. But the best part, the best callback is when he first meets Obi-Wan. Where's the army? I am your army. I'm here to protect you. Kind of brings you back to episode 4. I'm here to rescue you. That kind of gives that
Yeah, a
small
little
callback
bit. A little bit. Yeah.
because she's trapped in a room and he comes in. I'm here to rescue you. Where's the army?
And I will I will say this. The fight choreography for the series so far has been really good.
Yeah.
Particularly Obi-Wan fighting unarmed, and
Mm-hmm.
he's not using the force. He's not using his saber. He
Mm-hmm.
he uses a blaster, and may I say badly. I mean, like, come on, dude. You at least use the force a little bit to make your aim a little bit better.
See, and that's another thing I kind of caught into. It's kind of weird for me. Is like, if you're a very well trained Jedi Master down the Clone Wars, even after 10 years of not fighting or just being hiding, you're not going to lose your Force potential. You're still going to be able to have that training. He just doesn't use that as much. So in the series, it kind of seems like he's lost some of his ability to the Force. That's impossible. It's like a ninja match. It's like a martial arts match that losing some of his skill after 10 years. That's not possible, for at least me personally.
I don't know if he necessarily lost his potential. He just had to re-tap back into the
Mm-hmm.
force itself.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know,
because I'm
I kind of attribute force ability to like a muscle. And
mm-hmm,
if you don't exercise that muscle even semi regularly, it's going
mm-hmm.
to atrophy. And it will take work because it was a struggle for him just to stop Leia from falling and dying,
That's
essentially.
what I was got confused from. Like you would think that he's like a real trained, very wise Jedi Master. You would think he still has that strong Force potential to tap into the Force. But I didn't realize it just seems like I don't know. It just seems like you should be able to do that like no problem. But you know,
Well, there have been other mediums where they have shown Jedi that have been in exile and so on,
mm-hmm,
and they haven't necessarily been exercising their force abilities to any
mm-hmm.
extent. and it is somewhat difficult for them for after a lengthy period of time
Mm-hmm.
for them to just go snap and just be right back to where they were when they were at the
True.
peak of their ability.
Hmm.
So, and I think it's also go ahead, Price.
I would say not wrong, but yeah, I agree with that.
Well, and also I think the other thing is there's always been there was that one line in A New Hope, and I don't know if maybe this was a little bit of that reinforcement where Vader Anakin says to Obi-Wan, "Your powers are weak, old man."
Mm-hmm.
Now we know that Jedi's connection to the Force, as long as they keep it open,
Mm-hmm.
does not necessarily diminish, but their
No.
ability to manipulate the Force effectively can, I imagine, somewhat diminish because
Mm-hmm.
okay, imagine a young Yoda like 300 or 500-year-old Yoda
Mm-hmm.
lifting the X-wing out of the bog on Dagobah.
Mm-hmm.
No problem whatsoever. Now we see Yoda at like 800 years old, give or take, in Empire Strikes Back, and it fit. You see him.
Mm-hmm.
It's physically difficult. It takes a lot of exertion on him to lift that fighter out of the lake.
True,
And
but also to a certain extent, Yoda wasn't really trying either when you think about it, because he would just calmly just kind of put his hand out and he lifts the entire X-wing out of the bog itself. So it seems like Yoda, in that point of view, was not even trying either. But it could be wrong.
well, if you remember too, we see him again in obviously in Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Sick, I have become old and weak."
Yeah.
How much exertion could that one act have put on his body? Because here's the other thing
True.
too. Jedi go through a lot of physical training, not just
Mm-hmm.
mental and emotional, but physical training, rigorous physical training
True.
to build up their stamina, to build up their physical condition so that they can use the force to its utmost potential and
True.
even elevate it. So for Yoda, that was very taxing on him. I mean, it was even taxing for him to stop mid duel and Attack of the Clones
Yeah,
and stop
that's
that
true.
pillar from falling on Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing is true in Revenge of the Sith when he's defeated by Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
He is physically fatigued.
Yeah. Well, in that
So
fight for that fight, for example, it's more of a stalemate because neither of them died. But yeah, I can see what you're talking about.
so I think while Obi-Wan isn't necessarily as old as Yoda, obviously we know he isn't.
Mm-hmm.
You take into consideration that he hasn't used the Force in probably 10 years plus. Well, 10
Mm-hmm.
years period. And he's having to reopen his mind and all those pathways within his mind to the Force again, just to do
Mm-hmm.
something as relatively simple, at least we would consider it relatively simple, as keep a 9 or 10-year-old girl from falling to her death.
And that's probably the most funny thing is she asked him to make her float. Well, he made her float.
He did,
But
and
yeah,
that was all the proof she needed. Once he did that, she's like, "Okay, you're a Jedi. I believe it now." So,
she was so adorable about that too. When she did that, real adorable.
yeah, you know, the the one thing we haven't discussed as of yet is, of course, the Inquisitors. Now, I did mention them
Mm-hmm.
briefly,
Yeah.
but we also got introduced to the Grand Inquisitor in Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very fierce, very frightening, very intimidating character.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this: the actor who's portraying the Grand Inquisitor, granted, his appearance is somewhat different.
That's gonna be out. Well, I said it's obvious from the live action versus anime, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and Jacob, that's true too. And we do see a little bit of that training and everything, or him at least trying to communicate with Qui Gon. But of course, as of
Mm-hmm.
yet, we haven't had that particular moment. If it
That's
does in
another
fact
thing.
happen,
Yeah, that's another thing I'm waiting to see if somehow they're gonna bring Qui-Gon Jinn to some, because like I say, he communes with him the Force or quote unquote Force Ghost. I'm wondering if that will happen in the future. You know.
Well, and like I said, I may do a stream later tonight and everything discussing all the announcements that came out of Celebration this weekend. We know that Qui-Gon, they're doing a Jedi's Tale episode of Tales of the
Mm.
Jedi for Qui-Gon Jinn specifically.
Hmm.
And we know that Liam Neeson and his son, well, Liam Neeson is going to be reprising his role as Qui-Gon Jinn, but also his son is
Huh.
going to be, well, and more so as a voice role than in live action. So,
Interesting. But you know the funny
but,
thing is, you
mhm,
remember that remember that woman who gives him the spice in the city? That's Ian
mhm.
McGregor's. That's Ian McGregor's real daughter.
Really? I did
Yeah,
not
this
know that.
yeah, Esther McGregor, I think her name is.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's his real life daughter. Giving that. Imagine that your own daughter giving some drug spice for a TV show. Kind of ironic, but it's funny.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. So, and just quick hello to the chat, Jeff B. Jeff, it's good to see you,
What's
bud.
happening? Welcome.
It's been a little bit, but glad you're here, bud. Um, the interesting thing about the Inquisitors is I did not expect as much rivalry, but it does not necessarily surprise me.
Yeah. Well,
So,
the biggest thing is they're all just doing their best, whatever they can, to just please Lord Vader. Because one mistake and you're done. Like I said,
yeah,
Lord Vader is very, very, very
unforgiving.
deadly, very unforgiving, especially to those who try to challenge his power as well. Because that whatever her name is, I think Rivera,
Riva.
Reba. Yeah, like I said, no offense. I'm not saying this because she's black, but with her attitude, the way she's like bring herself up, Lord Vader would not have any of that. He would he would put her in her place in a snap.
And here's the interesting thing. Now, we have that sequence at the beginning of the episode, and they say that one of the young students was Riva
Hmm. Interesting.
and everything. Um, now I understand why they did this and everything in terms of real life events, but they have edited out that scene. I imagine they'll edit it back in eventually and everything, but because of the events down in Uvalde, Texas, they did edit out that scene and everything at the beginning and everything. So, but I imagine somewhere down the road, maybe a few months down the road, they'll probably put that scene
Mm-hmm.
back in because it is, while it doesn't completely diminish the introduction of Riva.
Mm. Well,
Um,
it makes me wonder because she's apparently, from what I've seen of her, she is so driven and so determined to find Obi-Wan. It's like she has a personal vendetta with him for whatever reason. That should be interesting to see.
so, and I'll bring up Jeff B and Jacob. I see your comment too, bud. So just I'll get to it in a second here. Is only the Jedi getting married is oh is the only Jedi that gets married Anakin, and does that make marriage the dark side? LOL. No, not
Careful,
exactly,
ambassador.
but
Careful,
Jeff,
ambassador.
good joke, bud. I'll bring up your comment here, Jacob. I am all for having a Leia series. Jacob, demerits for spelling. You spelled Leia wrong.
Yep. Sorry.
Showing her adventures. That would be cool. The little girl is a good actress. Her name is
Oh yeah, she was.
Vivian Lyra Blair.
That's one thing I want to bring up real quick before we segue. But yeah,
Sure.
of all the things we have never seen before ever in Star Wars, we've seen Luke's most of his upbringing so far, but we've never
Mhm.
seen even a small bit of Leia's upbringing. So it's pretty cool to actually see that. We actually get to see her upbringing in some form in this show. So I like that.
Yeah, I do too. Now, in terms of the Inquisitors,
Yeah, go back to the
I,
Inquisitors.
I, they were menacing, they were
Mm-hmm.
intimidating, but like I
Yeah,
said, at least between the Grand Inquisitor and I think it's like the fourth brother or the fifth brother or just
yeah.
the one
Mm-hmm.
brother Inquisitor and Riva, there's a lot of animosity, and she has got a big freaking chip on her shoulder, and she's out to
Yep.
get Obi-Wan.
Yep.
And the question is, how does she know that Anakin is Darth Vader?
Yep.
That's what I'm going
Well,
to be interested to see and
yeah.
find out. And everything.
Yeah.
That's what I'll be interested to find out.
My only speculation is that she saw him in the Jedi Temple when he was attacking Order 66. If she knows who he is, then
Oh,
I'm only speculating, but she may have seen him before the suit. But
wait a minute. We're missing something here.
mm,
What if she found? What if somehow she found the recording that that Obi-Wan and Yoda watched after they
Oh
got back into
wow, yeah, that'd be
what if
interesting to see.
she saw and maybe she even overheard that whole conversation. We
Probably.
don't know. She could have been hiding somewhere in the temple. I mean, maybe there were places that the young kids could have hid that the clones couldn't get to, that even
No,
Anakin wasn't aware of.
yeah, now here's my interesting question: like, how did the Jedi Temple even get that recording between Anakin and Palpatine? Because we saw him destroying the temple, but how did they even get a recording of the Emperor and Anakin in the Emperor's office? How's that weird? I don't know.
Well, it wasn't in the office; it was in the temple itself. Everything that recording that they saw was recorded inside the temple. Palpatine
So
came to the temple after
Oh, okay,
Anakin and the
that's what I'm
clones.
confused. Like, so the Emperor himself came in. Okay, gotcha. I was like so confused. Like, because we saw Anakin, of course, destroy the temple, but then we also see another cutscene of Lord Vader kind of kneeling to
To
Palpatine. It's like,
Palpatine.
okay, I thought that was like the office. I thought it was him going back to the office saying, "I killed all the Jedi. He did well, or whatever." I didn't
Mhm.
realize. Okay, he came to the Jedi temple.
Yeah, he came to the temple. So,
Interesting.
let's see. Jeff B. This series is only 6 episodes. Do you think this would have made a better single movie? Well,
Probably.
essentially, Jeff. Once this whole thing drops, check out the runtime. It essentially is a movie. They've just broken it up into parts.
That's
It's
what I always
essentially
wondered. That's what I wonder
it's
about.
essentially here's the thing with all these series that they have done. They are essentially long movies or miniseries, and that's essentially what
Yeah.
um a miniseries is. Is just it's a long movie. If you look at a lot of the miniseries from back in the 80s and whatever, they were essentially
Mhm.
just long movies. They just broke them up into pieces. So,
That's what I
and
totally. That's what I totally noticed about the Mandalorian seasons and then Book of Boba Fett. You might as well just make a movie out of it. I mean, really.
well, and once they're all dropped, you can essentially watch it that way if you want to.
Yeah.
So, and shout to the chat, another big Star Wars geek, just like yours truly, Tim of Tim's Talk.
Hey, what's happening, Tim?
Tim, good to
Been a
see
long
you,
time.
buddy. Appreciate
Been
you
a long
stopping
time.
in. So, let's see. I'll bring up your comment here, to Jacob. 1 second, then we'll get back to the Inquisitors. Or maybe those younglings found their way to the room where Anakin killed a bunch of them, and he didn't kill her.
Hmm.
That's a possibility too. Again, this is a lot of supposition. We don't know for sure. Maybe there will be a scene that does explain that. I mean,
Well, well, if that's the case, then he failed in his mission because his entire mission was to destroy every single Jedi in the temple. So, like, see, I don't think Lord Vader would, have any mercy on her to single her out. But I just
no.
think she might. I just think she might have been captured later on after she escaped or quote unquote escaped from the temple. But I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
So here's the thing. It's entirely possible that she may have been hiding somewhere off screen where we didn't see her when Obi-Wan and Anakin were, or Obi-Wan and Yoda were watching that recording of Anakin and Palpatine,
Hmm.
and she overhears it, and she overhears their entire conversation, and then she just sits on that, and maybe she saw Anakin as some sort of role model or idol, and she um maybe when she got inducted into the Inquisitors, she just held on to that and everything, and she's trying to capture Obi-Wan because that's the one person that she knows Vader would want. So, oh, and
Hmm.
hey, here's another face I have not seen in a very long time. Good to have him on board. Everybody, give a very warm ambassadorial welcome to General Zod. Zod, good to
Hey,
Hey,
see you,
what's
what
bud.
up?
happening? What's happening?
How you doing, bud?
Hey,
Been a while.
uh, yeah, I've been super busy. There's been so many good things to watch that I've just been secluded in. Like, I seen Top Gun. I'm currently working on Stranger Things.
That's awesome.
I'm eventually gonna go see Top Gun. I'm
Good
gonna have to
movie.
wait till next paycheck or whatever, but I'm definitely gonna go check that out because ever since they announced it, I've wanted
Good
to see
movie.
it. So, I've heard
Yeah,
lots of
I've seen
good
it,
things.
right?
I've been trying to avoid reviews because I don't want anything spoiled. So it'll be a little bit before I watch any reviews for Top Gun. But Zod, I'm assuming you're here to talk Kenobi. So your thoughts? What have you thought so far? The first 2 episodes, anyway.
Um, I got some split feelings on this because if you
Okay.
guys don't know, I'm probably one of the few people in the universe who likes Rebels. There's
I
something
like
that
Rebels.
happens. I think, yeah, oh yeah. That's why I came on because I know you've stated that too. And there is a huge issue I have with the second episode, and I think you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you got into that, and I'm
Mhm.
curious on how this affects
Oh,
canon.
the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Grand Inquisitor.
yep.
My
Yeah,
guess
like
is my guess is he probably is not dead.
That's the only
that's
thing I
what I
can
was
really think
guessing
of.
too.
Yeah,
My guess is
And I don't.
go ahead, bud.
Yeah, because that was weird for me. I have been quite annoyed too. As you guys know, there's a lot of stuff going around. I'm like, have you guys watched the show? But I do agree. Like, Reva is not particularly one of my favorite characters, and just because I feel like she's very generic, very like I'm angry just because. I did
yeah,
want to add on to your theory though, because I was hearing you guys, and I figured out who it was, and it's a blink if you miss it, but they tell you who she is in the first episode. She was the little girl who the Jedi defended in the
Hmm.
beginning.
Yeah.
If you look, he's in the back. So I think what happened was because first that lady defends them, right? And then she gets shot by 3 stormtroopers, and then those kids are escorted out by another Jedi. And I think the other kids wound up dying. The other Jedi was raising her, and then eventually he got hunted down. Because if you listen to the Inquisitors kind of give a little bit about her backstory, they
Hmm.
say how she
yeah,
was, they found her, she was the dregs. So I think after her master got killed, she was out on the streets. The Inquisitors came across her. Probably were going to kill her because they're hunting Jedis. And then they realized she was strong in the Force. She could read minds. And they were like, oh, we could use that. So we'll train her in the dark side.
yep,
Um, as, as far as the other things, I think that this is a slippery slope, Disney. This is a slippery slope because you set up something like she knows everything. So now I'm going to hold my judgments because they have to explain how she has this information that
yep,
nobody else has. And here's the thing, I can buy her getting it from the archives, but what I need explained is, and there's a way you could fix this, but
Hmm.
how that information would still be in the archives, because I would think the first thing that the Emperor would want to do is scrub all of that stuff from the Clone Wars, because anybody who follows it will follow it directly back to the uprising and everything else. And if I remember from Clone Wars, the final season, they were trying to disable that message that Obi-Wan had left. And
yep,
I'm sure at some point they had that beacon. And it was really just designed for them to save as many people as they can. He knew, and Yoda knew the Empire would eventually find it and like turn it off. But they were just hoping to save as many people as they could. So that all made sense to me. But I mean, I need a really good, like a solid explanation, and there might be a good explanation of how she knows
Hmm.
who is who. Like people complained about her at the end when she talks about Lord Vader and like Obi-Wan putting it together. But like, here's the thing: that would make sense. She would know that because she's an Inquisitor, and the Inquisitors work for the Empire, and they're underneath Lord Vader. So that all made
mm,
sense to me. Just
Hmm.
well,
her putting all of the other stuff together, I need some kind of reason. Like if they reveal there's a connection, or maybe her master talked about Obi-Wan, right? Or she was taken by another Jedi and he was like, don't worry, Obi-Wan is out there and he'll save us. And then, Obi-Wan never came. That
Hmm.
would be good to me. I'd be like, okay, you got a solid reason. You were taken by this Jedi. You were told and given hope, and then you wind up on the streets, and you're like, well, you know what? I'd rather be on the winning team, right?
My question is: did the other Inquisitors know he was Anakin Skywalker? Because Lord Vader is very, because according to canon, he's very secretive about his real identity. Like
There's only. Go ahead, Price.
I was just going to say Lord Vader is very tight knit about that one information about revealing who he truly was. Because to him, Anakin Skywalker was dead. So
Yes,
anyone who found out about that kind of piece of information would be like dead on the spot. So like the question is, how would she know that and not get killed by Lord Vader? But
well, here's the thing, and they've discussed this in different pieces of media and so on. There were maybe a handful of people that knew who Vader's true identity. Tarkin was presumably was somebody who knew who Vader actually was. Obviously, we have not seen him as of yet, but there's a lot of stories out there in the comics and other things that they have done that Thrawn knew who Anakin was in real life, or who Vader was before he was Vader, and that was, of course, Anakin Skywalker. But those are people that Vader could not have touched, or he could have touched, but he would have had to answer to Palpatine for.
Yeah, because I think that's why I'm asking: did the other Inquisitors know who he was? If that's the case.
My guess is probably not.
Yeah.
My guess is probably not. Now, we do see the conversion to a degree. We do see the conversion process of how a Inquisitor is made, and that was, of course, Jedi Fallen Order. So we get an idea of how an Inquisitor is made, and we imagine that's what happened to Reva, and probably happened what happened to the other Inquisitors as well. Well, either they were Force-sensitive individuals that decided that joined the Inquisitors, or they're former Jedi that were turned. Or either they returned by force, or they turned willingly. So that's
from what I read, is like they were completely tortured almost to death until they decided to turn. So I wonder if that might have happened to her. I wonder.
Yeah, because if you remember in Jedi Fallen Order, Seer was I think the Sixth Sister's master, and what happens is all the kids that Seer were protecting, she gets incapacitated, they get taken, and that's how the Sixth Sister comes to be and everything, and that's obviously the main antagonist that we see in Jedi Fallen Order. So my question is, and obviously we'll find this out as the next 4 episodes play out, what's Reva's motivation? Is it purely because she has a vendetta against Kenobi? Is she trying to gain more prominence within the Inquisitors? What's going on here? As of yet, we don't know. Zod, I did want to ask you, what'd you think of young Leia?
Unlike most people, and this really annoys me, and I have to bring this up because I'm sure you all have watched the reviews and stuff, and it pisses me off because to me, if I was to watch A New Hope, right, and you just watch that, right, they said they were like, oh, she's so snarky and blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, how does A New Hope begins, right? They try to rescue her, they blunder it. And she goes, oh, this is such a great rescue attempt, right? That was like her first opening line.
Yes.
So that's how we met. That's how we met Leia. Oh, no. And I got to be honest. I thought this followed very close to her character. Well, she's curious. She's snarky. She doesn't take shit from people.
Yes,
that's who she is.
Yeah. Well, actually, our very first scene with her, she's throwing massive shade at one of the baddest asses in the entire galaxy, and that's, of course, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
She's like, Darth Vader, even you wouldn't be so bold. The Imperial Senate will not sit still for this. She's bad-mouthing, and she even bad-mouths Grand Moff Tarkin. She's like, Governor Tarkin, I should have known you would have been holding Vader's leash. I recognize your foul stench when I was brought on board.
Man,
I've seen that movie. I've seen that movie way too many times, and I do not regret it.
and that just adds to my point. Like, I think I believe what's her name was it who created this? It was the one. It was the female writer
Deborah
for The
Chow.
Mandalorian. Yeah,
Deborah Chow. She was one of the
yeah,
directors.
Deborah Chow. I didn't want to get it wrong. Deborah Chow. She to me has a great sense of what Star Wars is. Cinematography and shooting shots and really pushing the envelope. And I feel like she understands the essence of the characters. Like, for me, Leia was very well done. I think that even the people writing her, like, and that young actress, let me tell you something, folks. Kid actors are terrible. I don't care what anybody says. Like, there's very few good kid actors out there. They're just, they're just learning. It's very hard to get a good performance out of a child. It's very tough. You have to be a very good director. And I think she pulls a very kind of whimsical, a bit sassy character. And you could tell she's like refined but tomboy at the same time, It's
Yeah.
it was a very good portrayal. I think honestly, that Obi-Wan and Leia are the best portrayed characters, and that they don't lose anything for me. I think it's exactly how I would picture it 10 years from episode 3.
Yeah. Well, this is obviously, she is literally 10 years old because she was born at the end of the Clone Wars.
Yep.
And quite literally the end of the Clone Wars. And this is Obi-Wan 10 years later, as me and Price have discussed, and I've discussed a little bit. This is a different Obi-Wan. This is an Obi-Wan that we have not seen portrayed before at this period in his life. That's why I set up the thumbnail the way I did. I had Obi-Wan at the end of Clone War, at the end of the prequels, him now, and then of course
Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness, may he be resting in peace, obviously. This is going to give us a lot of insight into the mindset, and to obviously also the state of the universe, which is, for me, this gives us a lot of world building. And that's something I also very much appreciate, because we got a little bit of that world building in Rogue One. We got a little bit more of that world building in Solo. Granted, I've still never seen Solo. I need to sit down and I need to make
Solo lost money.
Yeah, I know the meme. I've heard it. So, but I still I at least want to watch it at least a couple of times, just so I can give an opinion on it.
There's one thing I will say, though, because we've seen the whole interaction with Obi-Wan and Leia all that time. It'd be really interesting to see them somehow interact with Luke, like young Luke, like somehow. I say Luke is in Mos Eisley with his uncle, and he somehow comes across Obi-Wan at some point. It'd be interesting how he interacts with Obi-Wan the first time as a kid.
Yeah, because we've only gotten like expanded universe stories, old expanded universe stories about interactions between a young Luke or a teenage Luke and Obi-Wan. We've never seen anything on screen.
Yeah, because even Uncle Owen even before the show, in the I think episode 4, he kind of mentions, you shouldn't go visit Obi-Wan. He's just an old hermit. So it makes me wonder if they actually met each other before that. Like, it would be interesting to see if Obi-Wan actually interacts with Luke, like kid Luke.
Yeah, and I again, we'll just have to wait and see, because we're only 2 episodes in. We got 4 more to go, and honestly, just speaking for myself. I know everybody's going to have issues with different things here. Jacob's comment summarizes this very nicely. There are things that I like about the show, but there are things I just don't like, and I wish they hadn't done.
True.
That's going to be true for everybody.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely true for everybody.
And I mean, here's the thing, though. That's with any show, right? Like, I know very few shows where you could people universally go, you know what? The show is perfect. I like every single thing. Like, I'm a huge fan of Breaking Bad. Like, that to me is one of the greatest television shows ever created by man. Like, if you ask me, Zod, what's your first favorite show ever made? It'd be between Stargate and Breaking Bad. Those to me are perfect shows that don't ever need to be touched, don't ever need to be made. They were made the way they were supposed to. But I've come across people who said Breaking Bad is trash. Like, you know, it's one of those things where I think that, and this is what has made me upset about being in the space with rating these shows, is I think people have got it so jaded that they're not fairly grading this show on the quality, because the cinematography is amazing. The shots are absolutely gorgeous. The action is captured well. I think Ian McGregor has not lost a step being Obi-Wan. Like, he is phenomenal in this role. Like, even people who hate Disney Star Wars say, "Oh yeah, he's doing a great job." Like, he knows the character and he portrays him very, very well. And I think that my issues. This isn't one of those shows where I sat down and I went, "Oh, I hate this." I said, "Yeah, there's a couple of things because of the lore, the love that I have for the lore, where I'm like, you guys got to fix this. Like, if you go this way, you better give us a good reason, because this is going to break a lot of things, even in the canon."
That's why I agree with that.
But at the same time, I'm saying, let me give them the benefit of the doubt. People were in 2 episodes, and thank God Disney released 1 and 2. Because if they would have just released 1, the outrage would have been, I think, far more, because 1 doesn't give you a really good sense. And even 2 is just still kind of building stuff up. I got to get into 3 and 4 and then, 5 and be like, okay, where have we come along, and watch them all together and then see what the story they're trying to tell. But I like, come on, chill out, people. It's 2 episodes. I think it's...
I will not give several of these channels the time of day, because they are just patently unfair in their criticisms. I mean, you can have critique, but be honest about it. But there are channels out there, and I'm not even going to mention them by name. We all know who they are, that are just... they're raging against the show. They're raging against anything that has the name Kathleen Kennedy attached to it. And they're not giving the people that work on these shows, the cast, the crew, everybody, a chance to give us a story that we might be in, that we might actually turn out to enjoy. Now, like I said, criticism is natural. For those of us that exist in this space, that's oftentimes what we do. And let's be honest here with each other. We're amateurs. In a lot of ways, we are amateur reviewers. Now, granted, we never went to film school. We didn't go to film criticism school or anything like that. We didn't go to journalism school to write critiques. We're just fans. But
everybody's a critic.
We have what is in our heads, and we have what is in our hearts, and we just put it out there. And if people agree with us, fine. I'm not here to convert you, to make you think that Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of the greatest series of all time. I'm not here to convince you that The Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett is some of the greatest series of all time. I'm just here as a Star Wars fan. I'm here as a YouTuber. I'm here as a regular guy with his posters behind him, with his Darth Vader t-shirt on and his Mandalorian hat on his head, because this is how much I love Star Wars.
Yep.
It's part of my life. It's part of my personal identity. And no, I do not say that ashamedly. Never will. So, but what I have a real problem with, and what I have always had a real problem with, especially since I have existed in the online sphere, is inauthentic and completely biased and unfairly biased critique. And that's what I see from a lot of these YouTubers. They're not they're not being fair. Now, you just want to hate on everything, or pretend that you're hating on everything. Okay, fine, that's your prerogative. Go ahead and do it. But I'm not going to support you in doing it. I may have at one time, much to my own chagrin and, well, being uninformed, but I'm not going to give you my time or my time or my effort to debunk your nonsensical rantings. So, and I'll bring up Jeff's comment here real quick. A smart consumer makes up their own mind how to spend their money and time. Yes. So, and also to the chat, a good friend of the channel, friend from across the pond, as they like to say, Benson's. Good to see you, bud.
Welcome.
I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes of Obi-Wan. Demerits for misspelling Benson's. Shame on you. I thought the girl portraying young Leia was very convincing. Watched Top Gun 2 in IMAX last night. It's epic. Like I said, I'm eventually going to go see Top Gun. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So, but
Good movie. I
glad
saw it.
Vincent's always good to see you, buddy. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your time being here today. So,
See, to your point, Ambassador, I'm not a critic, but I did attend film classes. I write stories. So I got the idea of story structure. And I also, as you guys know, I watch a lot of stuff. And I'm sure every one of us does. And one thing that never changes is like the story structure and format of something. And this is my problem with Disney, where I just don't get that sense yet from this show. Is that what Disney likes to do in general? Is they like to make a lot of flashy stuff with very surface level story and characters. And it's very and the problem with doing that tactic is that every show and every movie these days seems to come out just has quality. So you can't just throw flashy stuff at people anymore. They're gonna pick it apart. And so
true.
That's why I'm so harsh in particular on Disney, is because I feel there's a lot of evidence and a lot of shows and movies you could point to where there's just lazy,
Right.
uninspired writing. But
I agree.
here, it's a different scenario because they're building around an already established character and already established lore in between two already established parts. So there's not a lot of room for them to interject their own interpretation. They can add to it and give us something different and new, but they're really painting in the confines of a story already set up. And my question coming into this is more: Are you are you giving us something new but still staying in the lines? And I think that's a problem with a lot of these projects, and why the ones that aren't connected to the universe seem to work a lot better is because you need to get a director and someone who cares about the past to do something based in the past. And I like Deborah Cho. I really do. I don't know if she wrote this, but I like her work, and she feels like she cares, and Ian McGregor cares, and Hayden Christensen cares, and everybody who's involved with this cares. So I don't feel, and when I watched it, just of how it's shot and I see what they're trying to do, I don't get the feeling like watching Last Jedi or something like that. Like it's someone who just doesn't care about the universe. You can feel that if you're watching something, and I didn't feel this, and I think that's a lot of the critiques that I hear is that they want to hate, but they don't feel that, because when you watch this does feel like Star Wars from the opening montage, which recaps the Clone Wars, which I can't tell you how much I love the recap of the OG trilogy. That was a great way. Like, bam, they want you to know this is about Obi-Wan. Boom, this is what we're doing, and they want to get you into that mindset. And I think that they do a good job hooking me in, and I do feel the passion here. This isn't passionless. This thing has been pushed back, delayed, reshot. Like they care. They want to get it right.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I do want to address Benson's comment here real quick. And Prize, Zod, and everything. You can share your thoughts too. Absolutely. And Master, do you like the mountain of shows coming for Star Wars, or would you prefer, say, a 22 episode Knights of the Old Republic series? Benson's. Why not both? Why not both? Actually, I'm contemplating doing a late night with the ambassador later this evening, and going over all the stuff that was dropped for at celebration and everything. I probably am going to do it. I've got a couple of videos I'm working on to get edited together and uploaded and everything. But um, to give you the short answer, Benson's, like I said, why not both? Price, Zod, your thoughts?
I was going to mention about to get going and get some food pretty soon with my family. So
Yeah, we're going to wrap
I'll
up here shortly anyway, so you're fine.
Yeah, I'll get my last word, but yeah, I do agree with a lot with General Zod as far as the storytelling, because a lot of storytelling has a lot of good nostalgia. He plays at the flashbacks of the old series of the movies and stuff like that, how they brought it together. So I'm actually kind of curious to see, but just like with a lot of different reasons, I refuse to give Disney my money for obvious reasons. But I tend to watch more of the Kenobi series through the eyes of like, say if you're gonna do like your own live watch of the series, I'll watch it through so as a stream. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they take the series as far as Kenobi's life and his journey to becoming what we know in episode 4. So that should be interesting to see. But I'm about to get going. So
okay, Bryce, thank you for being here, bud. Always a pleasure.
All the pleasure, man. It's always good to talk about nerd stuff. It's always so much fun. So I got to talk to you guys later.
Yeah, good to see you.
You too, Zod.
So,
my feelings are kind of conflicted. I think that out of the 4 or 5 shows they announced, you'll have 2 good ones. That's just my personal opinion, because it comes down to the team that you have, and
that's true.
You have some team members who I think can pull off an Ahsoka show, or the other ones they announced, and then you got some people. And then there's just some characters I don't care about, like Ander or whatever. I don't care. I didn't care about him to begin with. And that's not to say the actor didn't do a good job or it's not going to be a good show. That's just to say his character in general, I just don't care. I like
it wasn't intriguing to you.
No, he just didn't capture me. I'm like, there's so many other good people you could have used that and fleshed out more. And you chose him. That's kind of weird to me. But I mean, the rest of the stuff, I would have to see how this hits for me, and then who's attached to the other projects. That's what I would tell people in the chats. As far as a Old Republic show, I say leave it alone, unless you're gonna have a good team. Like if you have Filoni and Favreau do it, then I'm on board. But anybody else, I'd have to see credentials. Because the Old Republic is loved by a lot of people, and if you mess that up, you're going to create another backlash situation, because the Old Republic has such a rich history and such lore and cool Jedis and things. And Disney is so afraid to make the fight scenes and things visceral anymore that it's going to be hard to do a show based where it was very savage back in those times. There were a lot of wars. There were a lot of Jedis, lots of lightsaber fights. I think that build up the brand again first, kind of mend this divide and produce good quality stuff, and then go back through it that with the right team, Yeah,
no, I agree. Zod, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, at least from my point of view, to quote a great man, everything depends greatly on our own point of view. From my point of view, 3 of the 4 shows that they have released thus far, I very much enjoyed, and I'm including Obi-Wan in this. Excuse me. The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi. All of them I enjoyed. Some of them brought me to tears. Bad Batch, I didn't particularly. After a while, I just checked out of it. I did watch it the rest of the way through, but I didn't do reviews of it or anything. Here's the thing for me. You all might ask, Ambassador, why don't you review more stuff? I review the stuff that I feel that is interesting to me and that I feel you all want to discuss. And for me, Bad Batch it was too meandering. It was too formulaic. It was just too, it almost felt like a tacked on addendum to the Clone Wars animated series. And it just wasn't that interesting. I mean, don't get me wrong. Them introducing the Bad Batch in season 7, those first 3 or 4 episodes, I loved them in that, but basing an entire series around them, it just, for me, it fell flat. It was like going on a fetch quest that I couldn't interact with. If I want to do a fetch quest, I'll go play Skyrim, or I'll play Final Fantasy VII Remake, or I'll play Horizon Zero Dawn, or eventually I'm going to get Horizon the Forbidden West, because I love that game. I love that world that they built. But for me, Kenobi, the first 2 episodes in, they've hooked me. Now, of course, they had a great stinger at the end of episode 2. And that was, of course, the appearance of the man himself, Vader. And we know who's playing Vader. Hayden. Hayden is back. And we got a little bit of a tease and everything in that trailer where we see an arm being attached, and we see the very iconic control panel being plugged into his chest. And I am very interested to see this Vader at this point in his life. I will say,
I was definitely, I'm not gonna lie, I was geeking out about that. The first episode for me was a little bit difficult to get through, but the second episode was where I was kind of like, oh, okay. And just mainly for me, I do not like Reva's character whatsoever. It has to do with the way they've written her. She's very much annoying. And this is a problem in particular. I don't know why with certain female characters and the way that they're written, they go at it like overly emotional, very over the top. Like if you take in contrast the Grand Inquisitor's performance to hers, I found the Grand Inquisitor far more intimidating, far more like, wow, this is a guy you don't want to mess with, because he doesn't have to be boisterous or whatever. You know, when you see him light up that lightsaber, you're like, oh, stuff is going to go down because of how they portray him as being reserved. And I get it. She's supposed to be like torn up because of this thing in her past. They'll probably get into. I get all that, but you could still write that in a way that makes the character interesting, but not over the top. And I think, I don't know if it's the performance or the writing, which is kind of off for me, but that's my only issue, is that one character. She's not very well written, or she's not very well acted, or both. I can't pick which one it is. But you know, if they can give us like a really compelling reason and we get some insights into more of her life, I think I could at least ignore it just to get to the Obi-Wan stuff. That to me was very confusing. I think it's odd to put a third storyline when you got 2 great ones you can work on, right? Vader and Obi, what have they been doing? You can even throw Leia in there, because that was all, I was on board for that. You know, it's a little silly detour, have those Disney moments. She's a fun character. I don't have a problem with that. But I think it's gonna be a lot of bad reviews and a lot of contention that we're going to see, and we're already seeing it, is going to be around her character. And to a point, they're not wrong. She's not a very good character. And I think that they have to make her more sympathetic. And we have to see in the show the reasons, like, why is she so hateful? If you could give me a good reason, then I can get on board.
Well, you know, me and Mam Ambassador were watching this and everything. We were watching Kenobi Friday night, and we both made the same comment. Why is she such a raving bitch? I mean,
yeah, that's what it is. That's what it comes off as.
I don't dislike her per se. I don't dislike the portrayal, but I need some background as to why she is so damn hateful. That's what I need. If you can give me a compelling reason as to why she is behaving the way she is, then I can give you I can forgive some of that, because okay, let's put it this way. The main antagonist in Jedi Fallen Order, the Sixth Sister, I think she's called, she has a touch of Reva's attitude to her, but for some reason it seems more balanced. Now I don't know if maybe it's because it's a video game and not live action, and they can't CGI um the emotion into her face or whatever it is. But she didn't. She had a bit of that very that bitterness within her. But you felt sorry for her at the end, particularly when we see Vader staying behind her and he says, "You have failed me, Inquisitor," and she says, "Avenge us," and he cuts her down. And you actually feel just a touch of you do feel a little bit of sympathy for her because this is a broken, damaged individual. And I think Riva is in a lot of ways the same way. She is a broken, damaged individual. And maybe that's where a lot of this bitterness and anger is coming from. But they need, maybe it's the writing. I don't know. Maybe it is the actress's portrayal. I'm not sure. But yeah, they didn't have to make her so antagonistic or anything. Make her intimidating, which they did a pretty decent job at doing that and everything. But they made her so confrontational. Although considering that she was once a Jedi Padawan and she's now with the Empire and she's working with the Inquisitors, and the other Inquisitors treat her so badly, maybe that's where a little bit of this antagonism and this bitterness and this anger is coming from her. And something that you mentioned before, Zod, the fact that she feels like she was abandoned by Obi-Wan. That she had this hope built up in her mind that eventually he would come and save her and her master. If there was a master there that was watching over her, maybe there wasn't. We don't know. And she just has this massive hate on for Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I think, I get the feeling like he was mentioned, and there's a feeling of like you get the sense of like a broken trust, or she lost hope. Like, and like I said, I could read into this stuff, and I get it. I get what you're going for. But like I've said, and this is a through line for Disney shows in general, specifically the Disney Plus shows. The writing ranges from great to just good to absolutely abysmal. And and even the good stuff is mostly like cliche. Like the great writing, I would say, would be like Mandalorian, Clone Wars, things like that have great writing. And then you have this starting out with good writing. And it was my problem with the Book of Fett. Like, I'm opposite of you. I thought Bad Batch was good. I hated the Book of Fett. The Book of Fett to me was too slow, and the writing was very inconsistent and all over the place. And to be fair, I have a personal bias against Robert Rodriguez. I don't like the way he writes. I like the way he shoots a movie, but his writing is not that great.
Fair enough.
But like, but like with this show, I feel like there's some strong writing. Like they nailed to me. They nailed Obi-Wan. They nailed Leia. So they know what they're doing. I think this is more of a I gotta wait and see, because to be fair, this is 6 episodes. We're 2 through. We're not even halfway through. Episode 3 could come out next week and explain all of this. Like, give us a flashback on her life, and then we're all gonna be sitting here and going, "Oh, okay, I get where you're going now. I get why she's so mad. I get it. I understand now why you went in this direction. And still, I might not like it, but like you said, I'll understand it and be able to forgive it for the parts of the show that are really excellent. And like we were saying earlier, let's be real. This is a good show. This is probably one of the better Star Wars shows that we have gotten. You know what I mean? Like, up there for me with The Mandalorian. It's very engaging. It hooked me right away. I'm not bored a bit. Not one single minute was I sitting there going, all right, let's move along. I was like, I don't know about you, especially when they dropped that Vader thing. I was mad. I haven't felt mad about them cutting off something in such a long time. But when they showed Vader and then they cut it off, I don't know about you. I was screaming at the TV like, come on. we can't get like 1, 2, and 3. Like you're gonna like just leave it right there. I was like, and I think that's
But
the sign of a good show, right? Make them want
exactly.
next week's episode, and that's what I do. I'm waiting for it. I want to see episode 3. I'm in it. Oh,
yeah. Well, and the other really good thing I will say about this is a show that's reaching out beyond the Star Wars fandom, because I've got coworkers at work who aren't necessarily even Star Wars fans. I've got a few who are very hardcore, and almost as hardcore as me, and that's saying something because, well, I'm almost as old as the franchise in some ways.
I'm not quite, but I'm getting there.
Yeah. And they're talking about this show. They're talking about Kenobi. And they're like, so far, I've liked it. And I think that's a good way of expanding the fandom. That's a good way of bringing. That's a good way of bringing new people in. Is if you make a show that's appealing, like, oh, they're doing a show about this one guy that I know from these movies. Okay, I'll go check it out. And that brings more people in, and that's a good thing. So,
like the fandom, like here's the thing, and I think Comics Chat, one of the people I talk to a lot, he said it best in his review, where he goes, all of us old school fans, we're from a different time, a different era, and they're trying to change to fit with the times, and you don't have to go extreme as Last Jedi, but you do have to change things up. There are other stories, and I think a lot of people want the same things, and the reality is they're a business at the end of the day, and you need to change up the formula. You need to add something new, or we're going to face something worse, which is, as a fan, and I think we both could say this, you don't want your property to die. That's like the worst fate. Something so great.
You don't want it to go stagnant.
Yeah, Star Trek did that for a while. Like, look at the state that's in. Like, you don't want it to become like that, where people just don't care. They don't want to see anything new. They're just done with it, and it happens to so many franchises.
True.
So they got to take risks.
Yeah, that's true. I'll make an analogy. You won't have any context here, and that's okay. When I was in seminary, one of my professors said something very important. It was about structuring sermons. There is a formula. There's a structure for how you craft a sermon. But once you learn how that structure works, then you can take it and you can play with it, and you can maybe subvert the expectations of your audience. They went in a completely opposite direction than they should have with certain elements, or well, all the elements of the sequel trilogy. They didn't know the formula, and they tried to play with it, and it failed to varying degrees and other people's opinions, obviously. But what they are doing, what they have done thus far, to varying degrees of success or otherwise, or failure, is they've gotten the formula for Star Wars down, and now they're playing with it. But they're doing it in a way that works. And they're doing it in a way that's entertaining and engaging for both the general audience and for you and me, the fandom, for the fans. And like I said, we're on polar opposites when it comes to Bad Batch and Book of Boba Fett. I absolutely enjoyed Book of Boba Fett. I absolutely was bored to tears with Bad Batch. You're on the opposite end of that. But what we have with Kenobi is them attempting to fill in a gap of this universe that we've not seen. And they're having to be very careful to certain degrees on how they do it. Now we're gonna have to wait and see what they do. But thus far, with at least these first 2 episodes, they have us engaged, they have us talking, and they have us liking what they've done. The question is, how will the next 4 episodes go? Hopefully, this will be another mark in the win column for Lucasfilm, and I hope it is. They lost my. Go ahead.
I agree. I hope, and that's the thing I think we could both agree on, especially that frustrates us with negative channels and their negative takes, is that, like, I get it, you're a fan, but at the end of the day, we do have to pull for some of these things, because the alternative is worse. The alternative is that no Star Wars gets made, and then
Exactly.
what we're stuck with, like fan films that'll get pulled because Disney owns the rights and things like that. It's like, I don't want that for this. I want there to be people, like you were saying. I know people who don't even care about Star Wars. My girlfriend has no interest in Star Wars or Marvel, but the last couple of things, she sat there and watched with me and enjoyed them. This is somebody who is not in a fandom like us or geekdom of any kind. She's brought me like my figurines, and she brought me Baby Yoda and all that, but she doesn't care. But she'll sit down and like watch an episode of The Mandalorian with me. She'll sit down and watch an episode of Kenobi and be like, oh, who is this guy? What is it? This looks pretty cool. And like, I think that speaks to something. Like, they're doing something right with this show. If you can get somebody who has no idea or really any interest, and they sit down and go, you know what? This looks cool. Let me see what the show is about. My mom was the same way. She cares nothing about Marvel, nothing about Star Wars. Like, she likes the first ones because that was her time period, but she doesn't really care. She's not like us. She ain't in the lore, reading the books and the comic books and all that, making connections.
Exactly.
And she sat down and she was like, hey, did you see that new show? I go, Obi-Wan? She was like, yeah, it looks pretty cool. I like it. And I was like, so yeah, I think they got something. And I think it's like you said, wait and see, people. Let's let them continue the story. Let's see where the last 4 episodes go, and then we can judge. Because this is one of those ones where I'm like, all right, you got me. Now, wow me. If they can stick the landing, even with a rough start, we're all going to be talking about how great this show is. Mark my words. Even those haters, if they stick the landing and they make an epic ending like they did for Mandalorian season 2, how many people jumped on that bandwagon, Ambassador? Like, all of these people never watched it. And then Luke came and the internet blew up.
I will say this. I watched season 1 before season 2 even came out, because I didn't watch it when it first dropped. But I was there for every single episode of season 2. And like you've seen so many reactions on YouTube, compilations of reactions of people when Luke shows up in the rescue, I was sitting in our living room here, blubbering like a baby. I'm like, it's Luke. And he's kicking freaking ass.
Oh my God. And I was screaming. I'm on the other end. I was screaming at the TV. My girlfriend came in. She's like, what the hell is going on? Would you shut up? Because, the neighbors. I'm like, it's Luke. It's Luke. And she goes, that's good, honey. But,
and I will say this about Book of Boba Fett. I know people, the opinion about that show is all over the place. And some people were like, what's Grogu going to do? Is he going to choose to stay, or is he going to choose to go? And when he chose to go, everybody's like, well, Luke did the same mistake that everybody else did. No, there's a difference. Luke gave Grogu a choice. The Jedi never did.
Yeah, the Jedi were like, you are in or you're out. And like, there were penalties. Like, this is the people like to quote lore, but they don't like to quote the full thing, because you can even go back to episode 2, episode 1, the Clone Wars. They couldn't even do anything with other people. No attachments, because, doing it with someone else, that implies a physical relationship. That's an attachment. So they couldn't do any of that. And I think people forget how stringent they were.
Luke gave Grogu a choice. He's like, you can stay here and be one of my first students and become a great Jedi, or you can go back to the Mandalorian. And he's like, I will, I will support whatever you do. And Grogu chose to go back to the only family he knows. And I can't say I disagree with the opinion. Now, granted, in the fan fiction I've written, I included Grogu, but in my story, granted, I didn't know they were going to do this at the time. Grogu stayed with Luke and trained and became a Force wielder. Not so much a Jedi, but a Force wielder. And I will be interested to see. Granted, we got a teaser, which I like. I think I've got to do a stream later tonight. I got to talk about Celebration. I cannot do it. I cannot not discuss it. So, but yeah, we're gonna have to, like you said, we'll have to wait and see what they do. If they, I hope they stick the landing. I have a lot of confidence that they will until they break that confidence. Until they force me to cast a vote of no confidence in Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, much like Padme Amidala casts a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum.
Yeah, I'm with you there. They have not produced or made anything besides Book of Fett that I was really negative on. And to be fair, I know a lot of behind the scenes, like Jon Favreau and them, they weren't really involved heavily in that project. There were a lot of other directors and things and different guest writers and stuff like that. So I can understand the varying degrees and quality in the episodes for that. But with the shows that they helmed, the ones that they started, they have put so much thought and love into it. And it feels like fans are writing us stuff and they care about Star Wars. And until they show me that they've lost that, I'm right along with you. I will give everything that they put out at least a shot. I'll give it an episode or two, and I'll give it a chance because they've earned my trust.
Yeah. Well, for me, they earned it back. Because after the
sequels, I'm right there with you. They've earned it back.
So. Well, anyways, folks, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up for the afternoon. Like I said, I'm probably gonna go live later tonight. It might be later tonight, and I'm gonna do a late night with the ambassador and talk about the all the announcements and the trailers and everything that dropped for Celebration, and just kind of the future of the next year or so of Star Wars. So. I'll set up that stream here in a little bit. I do want to let you know, like I said, I'm finishing up editing a couple of videos. One is in regards to the Blade Runner universe, and the other one is in continuation of my X-Men review series. So those will be dropping later this week and everything for sure. So be sure to keep your eyes out for that. I want to thank Gerald Zod. I want to thank Price is Right Reviews, guys. Whether you're here now or you were here, thank you all for your time. Great conversation. Really appreciate y'all coming on in. Those of you that watch this, those will catch us on the replay. Thank you all for being here. And of course, for those of you that will catch us on the replay, leave your comments down below. Let us know what you thought of the first two episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Was it a step in the right direction, or are you just going to sit on the fence and wait and see, which is a fair thing. So, but with all that being said, folks, stay ambassadorial. Have a great day. Have a wonderful, restful Memorial Day. And we will see you all next time. And until next time, these are the ambassadors. Signing off.